a nose should smell so sweet and taste sweet too? Well, this actually comes in a box of similars, but they are freshly picked noses. It reminds me, it looks at my collection of what I would call incredible edibles. Some of them are inedible actually, but things which are something to eat and something to play with or just admire. And there's a fairly rich variety. I've got just a few here to show you, and we'll get started. The very earliest I had from my collection, I think was from the 1960s, was inedibles, and these are two lovely examples of inedibles. And of course, they're practical jokes, along with rubber biscuits and the rubber everything else. This is something, a little delicacy in England that's quite popular, a little walnut whip they called it. That actually is a genuine real walnut, so you could eat that, but I wouldn't touch it because it's been stuck by glue onto a plastic piece of, yeah, and it's empty as well. So it should be a nice sort of cream whip inside. So that's something I would have served up as a kid to long-suffering grown-ups. And here's another one which is an incredible inedible. You have to actually wind this one up. It's a practical joke that I've found in Ellison's catalogue, I think, so sometimes this is. You leave it on the table, and when someone wants to pick it up in order to eat it, it goes, ooh, it rattles. It's got a rattle inside it. So practical joke. So I began really in my earliest days, before I collected proper toys, with things like that, practical jokes. But here's ones which are really toys, but playable toys. This one, for instance, I first came upon the idea of toys you can play with, or sweets you can play with, or toys you could eat. And these ones, if I can get them to work properly, spin just about. They were made in Spain. They're made of chewing gum, so you have to actually chew them. You spin them first of all, and then when you're finished playing with that, you put it in your mouth and you eat them. So they're chewable, edible toys. A nice idea, that. I like things like that. Here's something very well known. It's a rattleback, and it just about works because it's made of chocolate. You could eat it, but it just about rattles. Look, for those who like rattlebacks, it starts to go back a little bit there. I think when they're brand new and fresh out of the mould, they will actually return. Oh, that's a bit better, quite nicely. So, yes, novelties, not just toys, but novelties you can eat, because I can now, well, I won't put it in your mouth and eat it. Here's a lovely example which a good friend of mine has made. He gave it to me as a present. It looks like bacon and egg on a bit of toast. In fact, you can see from here the texture, it's chocolate. The whole thing is made of chocolate. White chocolate, yellow chocolate, streaky bacon chocolate. The whole thing is made of chocolate. Lovely idea. So chocolates are very versatile because you're starting with a white chocolate which you can put in any dye or any colour to. That's a nice one. And here's one that's given out at the Gathering of the Gardener about 20 years ago. It's a tangram set which I'm very familiar with because I like puzzles. But it was an edible one because it's made of chocolate. Each of those pieces can be unwrapped and eaten. Once you've solved all the configurations and shapes you can make with tangrams, and there's lots of them too. But a nice idea to have an edible tangram. I do like it. There are three here which I had, I think, or no, four of them in the Christmas packs at one time. And these are all very, very novel ideas, and they're very small. This one, for instance, I think it came out in 1992 when I first came across it, and it's a piece of peppermint. Peppermint? Well, peppermint, which is formed of paper. And the idea is you take it out of the packet, put it on your tongue, and it's quite a strong mint flavour. In fact, very strong mint flavour. So very refreshing. And when you finish it, you take another one out. Paper mints. Very neat idea, very refreshing. Keep it in your wallet or your handbag or your pocket. And it's a nice way of refreshing the breath too. Here's another one which was amusing at the time. It's like a polo mint, but it's actually a whistle, would you believe, but edible. You put it in your mouth and you blow on it. But it has a shelf life or a mouth life. So after a while, the saliva in the mouth starts dissolving it, takes away the sharp edge where the sound waves formed, and it doesn't whistle anymore. So a short life, but a sweet one. Nice one for the mouth. And here's a very well-known object. There are so many of these around nowadays. They spin. They're little spin pops for the finger fiddle, but they're both lollipops. So the idea is to enjoy playing with it and then spinning them. And if you are going to lick them, try and lick them from both sides evenly in order to maintain its stability. Nice one. My favourite one, which I must put glasses on for this because this is a genius one, it's some jellies which you can eat, perfectly edible, put it in your mouth, but you're warned in the instructions to spit out this pip inside. The pip, well, they're meant a tiny little battery and a tiny little LED, a tiny little printed circuit board, none of which is edible, of course, but it does light up. How on earth? Well, you squeeze it, but it's a bit easy to squeeze it in this little device here. It's a sort of tweezers thing. Let's have a go. There we are. It's glowing. It really does glow, you see. So when you put that in your mouth, you must remember to spit out. Well, all right, okay, it's a joke. Can you see what's happening? There's actually little batteries inside the tweezers helping to illuminate and make it look as though there's a light inside the jelly bee, but it's not. It's outside. Clever one, that. A nice misdirection, they call it. Ingenious. This is one of many, many, many chocolate tools that are around. This one's a padlock. It's actually made of good quality chocolate, these ones too, but superbly formed. The first ones I ever came across were sort of an appearance of rusty tools, so it'd be covered in a sort of brown rust, but actually it's the colour of chocolate, of course. But this one is supposed to be what they're looking a bit more like a real live padlock with steel, so a steel silvery type coating. But completely edible, and as a nice little nuance, they do actually have a very, very good quality of chocolate in them to be enjoyed. I do also like unusual foods which you can't get in many places. Here's an example of something I've just bought another few packets of to take them to a toy fair in Nuremberg. And it's called, would you believe, pork floss. Have you come across it before? Well, it's commonplace if you're in the right place. In this case, it's about Singapore. I think it's a delicacy there. It's extraordinary stuff. It's got some funny consistency like that. I mean, I've come across candy floss. In fact, I had a candy floss machine for kids' parties, and dental floss I use every morning in the bathroom. But dental pork floss, well, the idea is you put it into bowls and people pick up the pinch and perfectly pleasant, savoury taste. Or else you use it for garnishing, well, omelettes, for instance, or steaks, and put just a little bit on it, which is a nice thing. So it's common enough if you're in the right part of the world. So there are quite a number of foods out there which become very interesting to look at if you're at the far side of the world, something you've never come across before. So that was a good one. Here's a lovely thing I picked up in Holland, I think about 20 years ago. There were a series of edible postcards. Edible postcards, yes. This is, well, it's got an envelope, you can't eat that, and it's got a backing paper, but this bit here is rice paper. I've already started chewing this one. Look, I'll have another little bite. You just break a bit off like that and then put it in the mouth. Yum, 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 yum. You can't actually write on these ones, although there are versions I've seen where you can write on it using a sort of vegetable dye ink, which wouldn't upset the stomach. But these particular ones, you put them actually into an envelope, and then there's all these beautiful examples of other ones, all of which are postcards which you can send to people with a message and a card to write on, but they're all edible, so people can enjoy eating your communication. Lovely stuff. Here's something that the Americans suddenly got keen on sometime in the 90s, astronaut stuff. And the idea was to let the general public enjoy food that was served up to astronauts, which they could eat out in space. This is a lovely example of one. It's sort of super dried fruit, this one. It's a little bit of, they call it strawberry. That strawberry has been mushed and extremely highly desiccated, so it's completely dry and tastes very nice. And strawberry-like too. Extraordinary. Comes in a little packet like that. So you can be an astronaut for a minute and eat the food that the astronauts eat out in space. That's a good one. Here's something delightful I made out in 1992. I always send a Christmas card to about 150 people or more. This year I sent out a Christmas greeting rather than a card. It was actually a sort of candy rock. But it had a message inside it because I had a special order of them made. Merry Christmas from Tim or some such thing. And the people who made it, who were up in Blackpool, where of course Blackpool rock is very, very popular, said this was a Christmas pudding flavoured rock, whatever that meant. But 150 of my friends, long-suffering friends and relations all enjoyed a Christmas greeting which was an edible one. Wow. And then here, to finish off, some more inedible edibles, I suppose we call them. These, there's a salami, there's a ham, there's a cheese. No, you can't eat them. They're plastic, of course. What can you use them for? Very simple. They're actually coasters, of course, coasters for putting mugs on. Here's some of my favourite mugs. So there's a lot of very clever ideas out there in the world of toys you can play with, you can eat, or sweets you can play with, or novelties you can enjoy. Some of them are inedible, some of them are edible, but they're mostly very incredible. I'm going to put these back in the cupboard where they came out of and dig up a few more, because I think this is a very rich seam of items from my collection. The incredible edibles and inedibles.